Hive Vortan was dying. Once a proud bastion of imperial industry, its spires now sagged under the weight of decay. The sky was choked with ash and the air tasted of rust and forgotten prayers. Beneath the hive's surface, whispers of Xenos incursions had reached the ears of the Adeptus Astartes. The Iron Hands responded with cold efficiency. Brother Kalis stood aboard the Thunderhawk Ferrum's Wrath, his armor freshly sanctified, his mind sharpened by the machine spirit's communion. His squad, 10 warriors of steel and flesh, were silent as the dropship descended. They did not speak of glory. They did not speak of fear. They were Iron Hands, flesh was weakness. Emotion was a flaw. Hive Vortan's landing platform greeted them with silence. No enforcers, no servitors. Just whined in the distant hum of malfunctioning cogitators. "Scan for life," ordered Sergeant Darnak, his voice a rasp through Vox. Kalis activated his auspex. The results were wrong. "Life signs detected," Kalis said, but scattered, faint, some inverted. Inverted? Darnak turned. "Clarify." Kalis hesitated. They pulsed backward, as if the souls are screaming inward. The squad advanced into the hive's lower levels. The corridors were slick with ichor. Statues of the Emperor had been defaced, their eyes gouged, their hands replaced with barbed wire. Kalis felt a flicker of unease. He crushed it, weakness. They found the enforcers in the subhabs, or what remained of them. Bodies hung from the ceiling like meat in a butcher's vault. Their skin had been flayed and reattached in spirals. Their eyes blinked, though their mouths had been sewn shut. One twitched as the Iron Hands passed. "Drukhari," Darnak spat. Dark Eldar filth. Kalis had studied them. Sadists, torturers, raiders. From the webway who fed on agony. He had never faced them directly. Few had and lived. The squad pressed deeper. They found no resistance, only horror. A nursery where infants had been aged into withered husks. A chapel where the priest's tongue had been replaced with a writhing worm. A manufactorum where servitors danced in endless circles. Their limbs fused together. Then the trap was sprung. From the shadows came the Drukhari, lithe, armored in Baroque splendor, their weapons humming with malice. Splinter rifles tore through the air, sending shards of neurotoxin into the Iron Hands' ranks. Brother Varn fell, his helmet melting from his face. Kalis returned fire, his bolter roaring. He felled 3 Xenos before a whip coiled around his arm, pulling him into the fray. A Drukhari witch danced toward him, blades flashing. Kalis blocked with his bionic arm, the blade sparking against ceramite. He countered, driving his fist into her chest. She laughed as she died, but they kept coming. Darnak ordered a retreat. The Iron Hands formed a phalanx, firing in disciplined bursts. Kalis covered their flank, his armor bleeding oil and blood. Then he saw it, a portal opening in the air, shimmering like a wound in reality. A homunculus stepped through. It was ancient, its body a tapestry of grafted limbs and whispering mouths. It pointed at Kalis. Tendrils erupted from the ground, wrapping around him. He fired, but the tendrils absorbed the shots. He roared defiance, but his voice was swallowed. "Kalis." Darnak reached for him, too late. The portal closed. Darkness. Kalis awoke in pain. His armor was gone. His limbs were restrained. He floated in a tank of viscous fluid surrounded by glass and bone. Shadows moved beyond the glass, homunculi, their eyes gleaming with curiosity. One approached. It tapped the glass. "You are exquisite," it hissed. "So much potential." Kalis tried to speak. His mouth did not respond. His body felt wrong. The homunculus smiled. "We will remake you, not as a warrior, as a masterpiece." Kalis screamed, and not aloud, but within. His mind reached for the teachings of Ferrus Manus, logic, discipline, strength, but the pain was only beginning. Kalis awoke to silence, not the silence of peace, but the suffocating stillness of a place where screams were so constant they became background noise. He floated in a translucent pod, suspended in a viscous fluid that numbed his nerves and dulled his thoughts. The last thing he remembered was the tendrils dragging him through the webway. Now he was in Kamara. The city of the Drukhari was a paradox, impossibly vast yet claustrophobic. Spires of obsidian twisted into the void, defying physics and sanity. The sky was a kaleidoscope of suffering, painted with the psychic echoes of a billion tormented souls. Kalis's pod was one of many, arranged in a gallery of agony. Homunculi drifted between the pods like curators in a museum. Each was a grotesque masterpiece of flesh and augmentation, limbs stitched from a dozen species, faces split into grinning masks, voices that whispered in languages older than stars. One approached Kalis. It tapped the glass with a clawed finger. "You are awake. Good. The canvas must be conscious to appreciate the brushstrokes." Kalis tried to move. His limbs responded sluggishly. His armor was gone, replaced with restraints of living metal that pulsed with his heartbeat. His bionic arm had been removed, not severed, but delicately uninstalled, as if by a surgeon admiring his tools. "You are Iron Hands," the homunculus mused. "You reject flesh. You embrace the machine. How quaint. We will teach you that flesh is eternal, when properly maintained." Kalis's mind reached for the teachings of Ferris. Manus, logic, discipline, strength. He recited the litany of steel in his thoughts, clinging to it like a drowning man to a lifeline. The homunculus smiled. "Ah, resistance, delicious." The pod drained. Kalis collapsed onto a cold slab, his body trembling. He was surrounded by instruments, not tools of healing but implements of artistry. Blades that sang. Needles that whispered. Vials filled with memories extracted from dying minds. The procedure began. They did not simply torture him. That would be crude. The homunculi were artisans. They peeled back his skin and replaced it with translucent, synth flesh that showed his muscles twitching. They removed his eyes and implanted soul gems that forced him to see the suffering of others, every scream, every flinch, every death. They rewired his nerves to respond to beauty. Pain became ecstasy. Agony became clarity. Kalis screamed, not from torment but from betrayal. His body was no longer his own. His thoughts were invaded by memories that were not his. A child watching her family flayed alive. A warrior begging for death. A priest reciting prayers as his tongue was removed. Days passed, or years. Time had no meaning in Kamara. Kalis was paraded before Drukhari nobles who admired his transformation. His body had become a living sculpture, a fusion of flesh and machine, adorned with scars that told stories. His left arm was replaced with a serpent of bone and sinew. His chest bore a mural of his squad's deaths etched into his skin with acid. He was not alone. In the chamber next to his, another captive whispered through the walls. A former Archon, betrayed and discarded. She spoke of rebellion, of escape, of secrets hidden in the webway. Kalis listened. Not because he believed, but because he needed something to anchor his mind. "You are not broken," she said. "You are remade. Use it." Kalis began to observe, to calculate. The Iron Hands were masters of logic. Even in madness, Kalis found patterns. The homunculi followed rituals. The guards rotated in cycles. The soul gems flickered in response to psychic waves. He began to test his limits. He moved when they thought him paralyzed. He spoke when they thought him mute. He endured when they expected collapse. And he remembered. He remembered Hive Vortan, his squad, the Emperor, the cold clarity of the machine. He buried his pain beneath layers of discipline. He became what the homunculi feared, a mind they could not break. One day the homunculus returned with a gift. A blade. "Your transformation is complete," it said. "You will perform in the arena of blades. You will be magnificent." Kalis took the blade. It was alive and a shard of wraithbone infused with suffering. He felt its hunger. He fed it his rage. The homunculus smiled. "You will kill. You will entertain. And you will never be free." Kalis looked into its eyes, and he smiled. The arena of blades was not built for war. It was built for spectacle, a vast amphitheater carved from obsidian and screaming souls. It hovered above the chasms of Kamara like a wound in reality. Tens of thousands of Drukhari gathered in its tiers, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. They came not to witness victory but to savor suffering. Brother Kalis stood in the center, his body a grotesque fusion of flesh and machine. His left arm was a serpent of bone, his chest a mural of etched agony. Soul gems embedded in his skull pulsed with the pain of others. His blade, a shard of wraithbone, whispered to him in a voice made of screams. He was not broken. He was calculating. The homunculus who had reshaped him stood in the royal box, flanked by archons and succubi. It raised a hand. The crowd fell silent. "Behold," it hissed, "the Iron Hand reborn." Let him bleed. Let him dance. The gates opened. Kalis's first opponent was a Kroot mercenary, drugged into frenzy. It charged, claws slashing. Kalis sidestepped, his blade singing. One stroke, the Kroot fell, its blood evaporating into the arena's hungry air. The crowd roared. Kalis did not react. He was already analyzing the next threat. A pair of Lamayan assassins emerged. Their movements fluid, their blades poisoned. Kalis allowed one to strike. The toxin entered his bloodstream. He catalogued its effects. Slowed reflexes, hallucinations, he adjusted. He killed them both. The crowd roared louder. Kalis began to see the pattern. The homunculus was testing him, escalating the threats, measuring his endurance. But Kalis was not simply surviving. He was learning. Each opponent revealed a weakness in the arena's systems. Each death gave him data. The soul gems fed him visions, prisoners, guards, hidden passages. He began to map the arena in his mind. Then came the turning point. A massive beast lumbered into the arena, a grotesque, stitched from dozens of corpses powered by pain. It roared, shaking the ground. Kalis did not flinch. He ran toward it. The crowd gasped. Kalis leapt, driving his blade into the creature's eye. It howled, swinging wildly. Kalis landed behind it, severing its spine with a precise strike. The grotesque collapsed, twitching. Kalis stood atop its corpse, and he spoke. "I am Brother Kalis of the Iron Hands," he said, his voice amplified by the arena's systems. "You have reshaped my body, but not my mind. You have fed me pain, but I have digested it. You have made me a weapon, and now I will be used." The crowd fell silent. The homunculus leaned forward, intrigued. Kalis raised his blade. Let the performance begin. He turned the soul gems inward, flooding his mind with the pain of the arena's prisoners. He screamed, not in agony but in signal. A psychic pulse rippled through the arena. Cells opened. Slaves surged. Kalis had encoded a message in his suffering, a call to revolt. The prisoners, driven mad by torment, responded. They poured into the arena, armed with scavenged weapons and raw fury. The Drukhari panicked. Kalis led the charge. He moved like a machine, precise, efficient, unstoppable. Every strike was calculated. Every movement served a purpose. He was no longer a gladiator. He was a virus in the system. The homunculus tried to flee. Kalis reached it. They faced each other in the royal box, surrounded by corpses and fire. "You are beautiful," the homunculus whispered. "You were my masterpiece." Kalis drove his blade into its heart. "I was never yours." The homunculus died, not with a scream, but with a smile. Kalis stood amidst the ruins of the arena of blades. The revolt had spread. Kamarok trembled. The Drukhari would recover, they always did. But Kalis had left a scar. He looked to the sky. Somewhere beyond the webway, the Imperium endured. He did not know if he would return. He did not know if he was still a space marine. But he knew this. He had turned torment into defiance. And in the grim darkness of the far future, that was victory. Enjoyed the grimdark journey of Brother Kalis. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another tale from the 41st millennium. Drop a comment below. What fate do you think awaits Kalis next? More Warhammer lore, battles, and brutal stories coming soon. Stay vigilant and remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.